introduction to one of my favorite people on earth, Mr. Stephen Oliver, who is with the Advisor Marketing Podcast. Now, Stephen is a true maverick, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Not only in our business, but I have to tell you, his clients universally love him, and they grow at rates that they wouldn't believe it's possible. Now, on this podcast, in each episode, Stephen is joined by various members of his team or special guests to share insider secrets to rapid growth and high net profits in your financial advisory practice. So I just want you to know you're in for a wild ride, new information, and a lot of exciting new future because of Stephen Oliver.
Hey there, Stephen Oliver again with the Advisor Wealth Mastery Podcast, Advisor Marketing Podcast, whatever we call this damn thing, but it's it's on the header, and we're doing part 2 here, Kate. And by the way, I now have me talking twice. That's extremely annoying. But we're joined for part 2 with Kate of Linked Selling. And Kate, your company handles, as an agency, Facebook advertising and LinkedIn advertising for us and for, I don't know, a bunch of our clients very, very effectively. And then I'm joined by Dr. Greg Moody, who is an effective part of our Advisor Wealth Mastery team. And we won't go through everybody's bio and one thing or another else. We'll be here all day. But Kate, I forget exactly where we left off last time. But what we were thinking about today is to focus first more effectively or more in depth on LinkedIn.
Sure.
And what we are finding both for my company, for our company, for Advisor Wealth Mastery, Master Moody and I just went through it. In fact, today again, that looks like, I don't know, Greg, what is 7 out of 12 as a ratio?
Well, that's better than 66%, 70%.
Yeah, so we're running about 70% of our new clients recently are from LinkedIn, as opposed from the other sources. In fact, we were getting 35, 40% from Facebook, and the balance was any and everything else. So frankly, as Greg knows, we do a lot of other things too. So that's how heavily dominant from a standpoint of quality. And I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure our lead traffic was comparable by source, but our quality of leads seems to be a lot higher from LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And for the financial advisors, kind of what's been common in the industry with a lot of them is they think in terms of LinkedIn being a good source. But oftentimes they're thinking about why it's a good source and how they go about accomplishing that may not be, very much in line with what we would look at as far as direct response marketing. Why don't you start with that and just kind of give a breakdown and an overview of what makes this an effective platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn, of course, is, better for your B2B type business outreach. And one reason it works well for financial advisors is you can get specific as to what type of person that you're going after. Not necessarily from an income level. There is no income level targeting on LinkedIn, but you can go after specific job titles or seniority within a company. So that then, you can expect that someone is making a decent amount of money if they're a president or a CEO or a founder or whatever you want to go after. So that has been an effective tool for a lot of financial advisors that we've worked with. One thing to do as well, most people know that LinkedIn is a pretty good source, but their tactic of using LinkedIn is really just sending connection requests and maybe sending some messages through the InMail feature within LinkedIn. But, that's all well and good, but we always recommend to add some ads on top of that from a paid ad traffic standpoint, because you're actually getting in front of the right type of audience. LinkedIn inboxes have become similar to email inboxes where people are getting bombarded with a lot of different traffic and different promotional materials. So using ads to use a piece of content that stands out to someone at that time is a better tactic to getting them to raise their hand and be interested in your opportunity and to work with them.
Mhm.
We'll go into the content piece in a little bit, but LinkedIn continuing, there's a lot of things that you can do. The geographic targeting is a little bit limited in comparison to something like Facebook. Facebook, you can target within a 1 mile radius. LinkedIn is more of like targeting a metro area or states. So for the most people, it works out just fine because, they can target their whole larger metro area or their state, or we also have people running full United States campaigns as well. All of that is still available, but you can't necessarily get extremely specific as you can on Facebook from a geographic targeting standpoint. But then I know one thing that Stephen talks to clients about a lot is finding a niche, but also finding your right type of person. One tactic that we've used a bunch is going after using financial advisors and having them go after a certain top employer in their area. That's a really nice tool as well that LinkedIn offers, that you can target anyone from a manager and beyond above title within WellSpan Health we'll use as one of our major employers here in this area. So, you can target based on type of company, you can target companies directly, and you can also target based on industry and geography and, job function. You can target if you're going after marketing people, you can, get specific towards that type of person as well. So that type of aspect on LinkedIn and targeting is a really strong feature. It is the most expensive platform that you're going to pay for because the targeting is so strong and because it's such a worthwhile B2B tool. It is more expensive than your average run-of-the-mill Facebook or even Google and some of the other advertising platforms, but you are getting that higher quality. So the cost weighs it out in itself, be with the higher quality coming through. It's okay to pay a little bit more to get someone in the door than if you're getting more volume versus lower cost.
Yeah.
Well, that made me think about two things though, Kate, too, is that for one, if you're paying a little more, you got to make sure you're doing it correctly. And you can't just randomly throw money at it. And I think all those platforms you mentioned are really good at saying, give me money and we'll advertise for you. And
They'll suck as much money out of your pocket as you.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't mind if you're, and so I think a lot of times when we advise our clients, they go, oh, but yeah, but I'm doing that on my own. And we really recommend that they use a team like you have or a good company to work with them. And there's a lot of bad companies out there. And so, number one, they need to do it correctly. And the second piece is that if they are spending more money, when people get triggered by the idea that, oh, it's more expensive. Oh, no, it's more expensive. But that really is fine as long as you know that I don't mind spending more money if I get a really good return on that money. So if I spend $100, but I make $10,000, I do that all day long. And if I spend $1,000 and I make $10,000 or $100,000, I do that all day long. So we need to kind of get our clients to get desensitized a little bit to, we don't want you to spend money that doesn't give you a return ever, but we don't mind spending some money to get a good return. And so LinkedIn then may be a good choice for them.
Yeah. And let's unpack a couple of things that you said, but backing up there for a second is, so scenario one, we've worked with a number of financial advisor clients on niching, and you mentioned that a minute ago. And one of the weird psychological limitations that advisors tend to put on themselves is geographic. There's nothing, we are not in an industry where it matters that they live within a mile or 3 miles or 5 miles or whatever from your office. And the more narrowly you niche, the more you can make the message match the market, the more you can speak in their language, and the easier it is to market to a small target audience across a big geography, right? So one of my good friends is like the number one guy for dentists in the country, and very narrow cast And in this case, his background happens to be that he used to be a practicing dentist, but that's not necessarily. There's a lot of other examples of that. Another good friend targets chiropractors, and he's a former bartender, so who learned how to market effectively for them. But so one element is niching, and it doesn't mean that you can't accept other people, but niching so that you pick a group of people that you can learn their language, that you can understand what's one of our other clients is a former police chief. And so he's targeting police officers, and then he brought somebody in who's a former fire chief, and he's targeting firemen and doing a very, very effective job on those people. And the advantage is he knows what their commonalities are of their retirement plan. He knows what their commonalities are of their thinking. He knows what their common expectations are if they retire in 20 and they're looking for the next thing, and how to balance all those things out. So I would say one strategy that's very effective for advisors, which doesn't have to be exclusionary for bringing in other people from kind of the more normal work your warm market type of manual labor sales job that sadly most people have themselves worked into, is find a profession, speak to that profession, preferably find a profession that's mostly populated by people who are likely to be a good target. We have somebody else that we've worked with closely who focuses on neurosurgeons. I mean, and there's enough of them, and they have enough wealth and enough capability and so forth that it's somebody that they can target. I don't mean to just hit medical. We have somebody else who focuses on contractors, and somebody else who is focused on real estate brokers, commercial real estate brokers specifically. So there's that element. The other element, and you touched upon it quickly, but if you looked in your state, your metro area, your broader region, who are the top employers, and who are people who have a highly paid workforce? I mean, we were working with a couple advisors that are where one was in Berkeley, one was in San Francisco. Well, obviously they're in Silicon Valley, and becoming the in-person for the executive team, and of course those Google and Apple and so forth have a lot of highly paid people, but they also have commonalities in the way that their retirement plans work, their stock vesting works, their income flows work, their bonus systems work, and so forth. And so that's something you could do with LinkedIn. And you mentioned it already, but you could take your biggest employer and you could vertically market to that big employer. That's Greg, that's one of the things that you've done in conjunction with our other partner company, Rev Marketing, is put together, the book for, the Apple employees, Apple employees guide to managing your money and developing, developing wealth as well as income, whatever the largest employer is. And in fact, oftentimes we've created a book that gets searched and replace the word Apple with Procter and Gamble with et cetera. And so you can create, which then becomes in marketing guru parlance, the lead magnet, right? Is you now have, I can target your biggest employer in the state, and I can have the book of, the 12 things that everybody for US West, use an old example that I did a lot, that every employee of CenturyLink, every executive of CenturyLink should be aware of in order to build their wealth as well as their income effectively with CenturyLink. So you build the report, the webinar, the book, the seminar, whatever it might be, based in this example around that vertical. And then there's nothing better than having 20 clients who all have a very similar profile in their income stream and their employer and whatever retirement plan they do or don't have, and their medical plan that they do and don't have. Once you become the expert, and by the way that we've oftentimes ended up where we were corporate sponsored, doing live events for that corporation at their office in their conference room, was we selectively targeted in the C-suite and the HR and in the benefits people and so forth. We selectively targeted and got some of them as clients first, and then use that to get the foot in the door to be expanding from there. All of these things that you mentioned already is ways of very effectively using even a higher cost per lead, perhaps, but usually a higher quality lead, in order to get your foot in the door in a narrowcast, in a profession, in a association. You could become the expert for the American Medical Association or the American Bar Association. Again, we have clients and friends that have very effectively targeted. One of them, Arjan, has 550 lawyers at last count that he works with. Wouldn't be my first choice of who to be working with, but he does it very effectively, and he's become a very, 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 very lucrative operation. So getting that target, being able to target them. So I just wanted to expand on that a little bit, Kate, because there's so much packed in there.
And
Well,
on that
I would
too.
just add I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was just going to add to what you said, is that it's less in the end, even though you listed a lot of things, it's less work to do it that way.
Yeah.
It's a really big slog to try to beat up the whole world and get people to respond. It's a lot less work to be focused on some groups.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you get much more bang for your buck too, especially on LinkedIn, by being able to be specific about who you're targeting. You're limiting the size of your audience, which on LinkedIn is good, because you don't want an audience that you're targeting of 3 million people, because your budget's going to get spread so thinly among all those people that you're not going to get as much of traction that you would if your audience was 100,000 or 200,000 people, that you're getting the right message to those people. And that gives LinkedIn the opportunity, since you're going very specifically, it gives the LinkedIn the opportunity to spread your budget more closely to the people that you actually want to see it, instead of going really broad and spreading your budget too thin. LinkedIn is an expensive platform, so you do want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck, and that you're having the message that is in your ad really resonate with the people that are seeing it, so that you can stand out from the millions of other messages that they're receiving throughout the day and advertisements that they're receiving throughout the day.
Yeah. And within the strategies you can use at LinkedIn, and correct me if I'm wrong, your company will facilitate a couple of them. It'll facilitate doing cold contacting, initiating contact, having a conversation with advisors. And of course, that's more of a manual labor activity. And you'll facilitate buying targeted ads and then helping to hone in both the criteria. And the value to me of you as an agency is, and as you well know, I've done all this stuff myself for my own company before, and honestly did that for a while just so I would understand it, to be able to teach our clients. But what I figured out very quickly is it required constant and never-ending monitoring, and it required constantly refreshing, recreating, creating new copy, creating new photos, and adjusting the targeting. And I was finding that I was doing that about 1/5 as often as I should have been, in order to maximize, and that's probably being generous, in order to maximize the results across all the platforms. And I personally did that with Facebook and with Twitter and with LinkedIn and with, God, I forget what else. Never with TikTok, I must say, but with many of the other platforms. But generally on LinkedIn, there are a number of things that people do as strategy. Some of them difficult to master, some of them relatively easy to master. And we could kind of go through the range. So we have the buying ads and having a targeted ads, using an agency to do that. That's where, our 60-70% of our quality clients have been coming from, is that particular thing. And then you have cold contacting clients, which again, the good thing is it works. And the bad thing is that Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn Messenger are becoming spam platforms like email, as you mentioned already. They're not quite as bad, yet, and LinkedIn isn't as bad as Facebook, and Facebook isn't as bad as email. And by the way, it's why I like text messaging, because it's not as bad yet as email and, getting spam. Although, to be fair, my iPhone, without my cooperation, put the 3 people that I get the most text from across the top. 2 out of the 3 were broadcast lists of marketing and solicitations. One of them was a real human being. So if that gives you a sense of, even in my case, which I don't give my number out to anybody, of what number of the text message traffic is coming from people who are truly friends rather than companies. One of them was a commercial entity, the other was a political entity. Let's put it that way. But so moving right along, a couple of the other strategies, and we could talk briefly about these. I know it's not your primary thing, but posting regular updates and posting regular comments and one thing or another in LinkedIn, the way that people do in Facebook. Correct my numbers if I'm off, but like in my case, I do that quite often, and in LinkedIn, and I have somewhere, in rounding error, somewhat under 13,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I'm finding 35 or 40 people on average will see the things that I post. Does that sound about right for your experience, Kate?
Yeah.
So what happens in Facebook on personal pages and especially on business pages or business groups is that people think, oh, did you see my post on, our mutual friend and, associate Jeff Smith says that to us all the time. Well, I did, I'll ask him a question. He said, well, I made a post on Facebook. Did you see it? Number one, I'm not paying attention to anybody's post on Facebook, but the answer is always no. What was it? But what people think is, if I have 300 clients who are connections, followers, means different things, but basically the same thing. People who have liked my page in Facebook, people who are friends on a personal page, that means that they're seeing things that I post. And that's far from true. Yeah. The reason that LinkedIn is a multi-billion-dollar company now, an arm of Microsoft, and the reason that Facebook is a multi-million-dollar company is they like you to give them money. Yeah. And in order to get things to be seen, they want you to pay to get things seen. And there's no, that I'm aware of, there's no equivalent of boosted posts in LinkedIn other than paid advertising running an ad. But I think, one, it's a fallacy that people think that they're in there posting stuff every day and that people are seeing it.
Yeah, agreed. It's not a waste, because it is good to post something every once in a while, just to have those pieces of content on your business page on LinkedIn, because, if you do have someone checking out your LinkedIn business page, you don't want your last post to be from 2013 and then wonder, is this company even open anymore? So it is good to have some content going up on your page every once in a while, but the whole I have to post daily or I'm not going to get any new clients is a fallacy for sure. And, as a company, we don't even bother posting on LinkedIn to be totally honest, so that we put our blog post on every month or every other month, and then it's on there so that our company is still open. But, it's not necessary. It's not going to help you, aside from having your friends like it here and there that do happen to see it. And again, if you're already working with your friends, cool. If not, then you have, that's a separate conversation anyway. So
and it's somewhat foundational, but it's not adequate for you to get your marketing done.
Exactly.
Adequate. And people are deluded. I think the mistake is they get deluded into thinking that if they do a lot more, and then that's a lot of labor too that they put in, and then they think they can get it for free. And I think Stephen's comment is really apropos. There's not a free ride. These companies exist for making money, and there's nothing wrong with that. It'd be like,
and they make big boatloads of it, which is good for them. But
Yeah. And there's some free services you get, you get to connect with people on LinkedIn, and you get to connect with people on Facebook, and you get to use that for some services. But to try to think that your business is going to get a free ride is a little naive. And that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
then
do have to be connected with someone on LinkedIn in order to send them a message through LinkedIn. So that is one benefit of sending connection requests. But again, that's on a personal level too. So your business page, post something every once in a while, and you're probably good to go. Even sharing posts is fine too, because that's still going to show up on your page. So even less work. All it is clicking the share button of something, maybe an article that came out that is of interest or of relevance for your target audience, and boom, you're good.
yeah. And Greg, we might hit your third rail issue a little bit here as well. Is some people, will go all in on political posts and one thing or another, religious posts and so forth. And I think it's extremely important to make an informed decision on who your audience is
Mhm.
and who your prospective clients are before you do any of that kind of stuff, right? I mean, if to use maybe an extreme example, if I'm targeting big company HR executives and I'm posting diversity, inclusion, and equity stuff all the time, I'm probably turning off 85% of those people.
And those are the things people are going to see, because then it's going to trigger in their minds and they're going to be like, oh.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. Or in the flip side, if I'm aggressively in the Bible Belt and I'm targeting people specifically based upon, evangelical Christian affiliation, I want to make sure I'm not, aggressively posting all the stuff that's going to piss them off, right? And it's, my view of it is that, the old adage is never talk politics and religion unless I want to be the advisor, for my regional Jewish community. And one of the things I specialize is in working with those audiences. Then I'm going to be posting pro-Israel stuff and one thing or another. You've got to first make an informed decision on who you're talking to. We had clients in, like I said, in Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay. Well, I mean, I better not be a raging right winger posting all the latest conspiracy theories on the right wing to their audience, because we know what how it's composed. We have a couple of others who very intentionally are focused on the evangelical Christian and the right, if not far right, speaking at their conferences and hosting meetings and so forth. Well, if that's the audience you want, go full in.
Yeah, just know it.
But before you do that, make a decision on who you're targeting, know what your audience is, and don't, right? So don't or do based upon that knowledge.
Yeah,
Greg, is that a fair way to say that?
Yeah. And my objection is when I see people on their Facebook posts or their LinkedIn posts, and they really seem haphazard and they don't separate. I think one comment is you can't separate your business and personal life in the world anymore.
No.
If your personal life is you feel one way about your politics or your religious views, it's going to get found. And once we start marketing, and especially when we help our clients and they get found everywhere, well, all that stuff's going to get found. So if you believe one thing, then it's great, and we respect that. And I mean, we have clients in all kinds of different views,
persuasions, and
we are really supportive of whatever you're trying to promote, because we believe that the people need help with their money, and we believe that everybody should get some help. But if you believe one thing and another example is we've seen people maybe on their Facebook posts, they're posting that they're out in Cancun getting drunk and partying with their shirt off. Well, okay.
with a bong in their left hand and
Yeah,
a
exactly. Well, in that
margarita
case,
in the right hand.
that's an example of probably that's not somebody I want to trust with my money. Or if you were a doctor, I probably wouldn't want you to be doing surgery on me, even if it was a week later, right? So it's not a view of you ought to live your personal life and be however you want to be, but you're kind of a celebrity when you're in your own business, when you have your own business. And so be aware of that and make the right decision. So on one hand, what you said is exactly right. Make a decision of how you're going to project yourself for sure, but also be aware that you're not the world has a little insight into how you act. LinkedIn, I think, is a little bit more direct of how you're going to project yourself, but I think Facebook is a good example, and it helps a lot with Facebook marketing too. Is people, I think we see all the time people posting stuff, just their opinions, because they're mad and they're upset or whatever view they have. And well, how's that going to react to how your client base going to react to that, or your prospects going to react?
We had one that was posting at 2 a.m. on a regular basis that they were depressed and who wanted to come get drunk with them. That's not exactly useful. And again,
you don't get many good quality clients that way.
No. And again, the point that you made is there really online is no distinction between the personal you and the professional you. And whether it's a platform like TikTok, or whether it's Twitter, or whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, and people tend as yet not to get as extreme and wild on LinkedIn, because I think of it as more of a business environment. But still, we have found, especially women, 80% of women, before they're going to work with you, which is if it's a married couple, the wife is the one that's more likely to, is going to go Google you. And they're going to go Google you and find everything that Google is willing to find on you and make a decision based upon that. And so you've got the drunken videos on TikTok, even though you have the most professional looking images possible on LinkedIn, are going to be found in Google searches. Yes. The actual LinkedIn pages that you set up, I think most people don't think in terms of especially the personal page. Maybe they think more about this on the business page, but they don't think of it as this is a place where I want to show something beyond my resume, right? So LinkedIn is kind of normally formatted for tell us your job history, tell us your one thing or another. But really what I want it to be is I want to be often a first contact description of why I'm beneficial for them. So I want to have special reports, publications, links to the YouTube channel I've developed, links to the podcast I've developed, links to the book that perhaps we help you put together. But I want all of that kind of stuff on there. I want the header, the description, everything else to drive them to pick up the phone and call you, drive them to a separate landing page. Kate, that's one of the things I did over the year here, is really kept expanding the header, and click the button to be notified of updates, and for the special report, click here. Because again, I'm now finding, 600-700 people a week coming across my profile, and I want them to do something other than notice my name for 30 seconds before they move on, but to take some action, right? Yeah. So that's, again, and it's something we can spend more time on later, but that's a consideration. There's one other element that we found pretty productive recently. Kate, as you well know, your company has been driving traffic to webinars, meetings, different things for us. And that is one of the things that the business pages in LinkedIn will allow you to do, is you can create a meeting, you can create an event, whether it's an online meeting held through LinkedIn, held externally. It can allow you to do a ticketing. So if you're doing lunch meetings, dinner meetings, meetings at a library, meetings at your conference room, whatever it is, you can create a meeting, and then you can go invite up to 1,000 of your connections. Yep. And then what it will let you do, which is pretty impressive for a social media platform, is it'll let you sync up your CRM and let you pull the data, not much of it, but the email address and the name, it will let you pull the data of everybody who is registered for the meeting, and then it'll let you do follow-up. So it'll give them the URL to register. But what we do is we sync our CRM. Then when they go register, to pull it into our CRM, and so now we hit them with a drip system to follow up and get them registered. So it's and again, it's heavily a manual labor process. You have to set up the meeting, one thing or another, give it tags. Sometimes it'll be found in search, kind of like Eventbrite might, but mostly it's about, you can put somebody on, go invite all my current clients, go invite my current clients' friends, and it's another way to get a communications out with them.
Yeah, that's a relatively new feature that LinkedIn has offered. And yeah, we've used it a few times, and it is a little bit more manual than some of the others. But if you are able and savvy enough to integrate it with your other systems, it does become a really effective piece. And, you can invite your connections from LinkedIn, within a few minutes. Normally you could just click all or click through them and choose who is getting it and who's not. So really nice feature. And that's a free feature that LinkedIn offers within the regular business page options.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it still is, but
it probably won't be free forever. I bet that starts becoming a paid thing, but it is for now, at least.
Yeah, I doubt it. And if I'm remembering correctly, you can filter by individual company. So you can invite all the people that you're connected with, whoever your biggest employer is. You can filter it by occupation. So you could go, have a webinar for, the retirement plan for dentists or whatever it might be. And you can go invite everybody that you have connections with that are in that category. Another one that I might throw in as well, and I'm not sure this is universally available. I think you have to have a certain base of connections and a certain gravitas within LinkedIn, whatever that means. In other words, you've got to have posted fairly regularly and so forth. But they do have a newsletter feature that's new and gradually being rolled out, as I understand it. So, for instance, I have a newsletter that goes out to about 2,100 people every time I put it out. And what LinkedIn is doing, which I'm sure they're not going to do this for free for very long either, but what they will do is everybody who's subscribed to the newsletter, it's now going to show up in their feed. But what's more impressive to me is it'll all automatically from within the LinkedIn platform email it to everybody has subscribed to the newsletter. So it'll send it to, in most cases, what's their work email address, because that's what people are putting in LinkedIn. So it'll automatically email it to everybody who's subscribed. And when you set it up the first time, it'll invite everybody that you're connected with to subscribe. And then you can, share it with groups, share it with different places, do invitations to get people to participate and so forth. So that's yet another tool that it allows.
That's a nice feature.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I forget top of my head, we could go look quickly, but there's a certain number of connections you have to have and a certain, score of some sort that LinkedIn gives before it lets you participate in that, but it is worthwhile. What would you add to what we've talked about so far, Kate? We were going to do part 2 here, and we've already been at this for 35 minutes or so here.
Yeah. I mean, LinkedIn is a great option for those who are looking for getting in front of specific types of people, like we talked about. And I mentioned earlier, and we talked a little bit about lead magnets, or like that piece of content of what you're going to put out there for people. That's a really important part of it as well. We talked a little bit about this last time too, but just reiterating, you want to make sure that content that you're putting out there in whatever form, whether it's a paid ad, whether it's, an event that you're doing, whether it's a newsletter that you're putting out, you want to make sure that it's relevant to the audience that you're talking to, and that it's solving something that they're thinking about in their heads at that time. So, you're not going to call out to everyone at that exact moment, but you want to make sure you're getting into that conversation within someone's head. So some of the things that we've used that have worked well in the past is, 12 things that blank employees of blank company are thinking about in 2022 as they get ready to retire, something like that, that can be specific towards the group that you're talking to. And that content, we always recommend giving it for free within your ad, so people opt in for that piece of content. And then you have a series of follow-up opportunities with them through email, through text message. And then ideally, you're giving them a call to reach out to start that relationship. And, LinkedIn is just like every other platform where, you're not going to start LinkedIn ads tomorrow and have a new client with $1 million in assets ready to invest next week. But, you want to start that relationship somewhere. So it's creating that top level of lead generation and bringing people into your system and bringing them into your sphere of influence, and being able to then build that relationship with them through a series of follow-ups and through, working on building that relationship, building that proof that you are good at this and that you're able to, be a good partner for them.
Hey, and you gave me a perfect opening for some self-promotion here, I must say as well. Silly me for not having done it earlier, but we're fresh in the throes of releasing the new book, Extraordinary Marketing for Financial Advisors. Dr. Moody was heavily involved with this, and Kate, you and Tanner at Link Selling were heavily involved with the section on LinkedIn and the section on Facebook. And by the way, you mentioned the type of lead magnets. There's example after example after example after example after
Awesome.
example in the sections on LinkedIn and Facebook. And in fact, an awful lot of what Ken Fisher has been doing are some of the examples that we've pulled. So anybody who wants to get a copy of this book, give our office a call, and we'll make sure, if it's not yet published, which it probably will be by the time anybody sees this, if it's not yet published, we'll get you a pre-publication copy for feedback. And if it is published, we'll give you all the sources for how you can get it physically. Or, in fact, I should have the proof of the hard copy in color today. So it'll be interesting. The physical copy came out really nice. Strangely, I don't have one on my desk. So much for my pre-planning.
Awesome. And we have some ads running for you right now that are offering a free chapter. So there you go.
There you go.
That, come download it.
Yeah. That's one. That's a strategy that everybody should use.
Yeah.
We have I think 15 chapters and 4 or 5 bonus chapters, and each of the hardcore meat on the bones chapters, we're using those as freestanding special reports that are then a lead magnet to bring people into the funnel. Dr. Moody, anything to add to this subject before we wrap it up and call it a day?
No, I think everybody needs to really pay attention, get the book for sure. I mean, that'll give you a good head start with all the stuff, not just what we covered today, but everything that we have been covering over the last series of podcasts, and look at some of our other podcasts for how you get started and the different pieces you put together. And when you get the chance to work with Kate, we highly recommend everything that she's doing.
I think we're coming up on 100 of these now on all the major podcast platforms. So
we really have everything you need to get started, and certainly we can work with you individually. Everybody should take the chance to work with us individually, so we can help you with your specific needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing you had mentioned before, Kate, that I might finish with is, Greg, one of the things that we work with, that you and I work with clients on, and in our affiliate company, Red Marketing Works, is search engine optimization and positioning your website to be found. And all those things that we mentioned, podcast, reports, blogs, and so forth, all are stuff that need to be out there as many places online as possible, including on LinkedIn and Facebook and so forth. Because what you're wanting is Google, and of course, the lesser search engines, which, their combined traffic is almost not worth discussing. The 800-pound gorilla is Google. But we want Google to be finding you everywhere. And so it is the benefit of being all over LinkedIn, being all over Facebook, being on Twitter, but also having the podcast distributed, but then shared on LinkedIn, shared everywhere, the blogs out on a regular basis, but then having them shared everywhere it helps to get found. Well, Kate, thank you so much. And we, of course, highly recommend any and everybody working with link selling You guys are doing a great job for us and our clients, and we certainly hope that the hard chargers, high producers who want to really grow your business, that's our niche. If you're struggling, closed-minded, and an asshole, you're not our target audience. So stay
Know
away.
your
But
audience.
yeah, yeah.
We got it.
We know our audience, the hard charger, high performers who are dissatisfied with their current position and are open to learning and growing, which is amazingly sometimes a challenge.
Awesome.
Isn't
Well,
that
thank
right?
you so
Right.
much. Yeah.
that's exactly
Okay.
right.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.